Before we get on with the podcast, I'd like to mention that I now have 3 books for sale on Kindle. Recommended Reading for the True Conservative, Bad Democrat, and now Evil Liberal. All available for $3.99 or through Kindle Unlimited. Now, on with the podcast.
Another question I've been asked 1,000,000 times in the last 20 years. Anthony, what's your favorite joke you've ever written? It's easy. The first one. 20 years ago when I started doing this, I started from nothing. I was nothing. I was just going around to open mics in Los Angeles, performing for bitter open mic comedians who never reacted to anything. I was just trying to find my voice. Could I be good at this? Could I make it a living? And it took a while. Until one night, I went to a coffee shop, tried this joke out for the first time, changed my whole life. I said, guys, my girlfriend loves to eat chocolate. She's always eating chocolate, and she likes to joke she's got a chocolate addiction. She's like, keep away from those chocolate bars, I'm addicted to them. And it's really annoying. So one day I put her in the car, and I drove her downtown, and I pointed out a crack addict. And I said, you see that, honey? Why can't you be that skinny?
Good morning. It's Wednesday, Science Wednesday, August the 12th, and this is The True Conservative. Welcome to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, your host, and the only true conservative in the United States today. So today, after the Serenity Prayer and the patriotic song of the day, we will have Varney and Company and Professor Feynman. All that and more when I get back. God, give us the grace to accept with serenity the things that cannot be changed, courage to change the things which should be changed, and the wisdom to distinguish the one from the other. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace, taking, as Jesus did, this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, trusting that you will make all things right if I surrender to your will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next. Amen. And now, Varney and Company.
Take it away, sir.
Indeed I shall. Good morning, Cheryl. Good morning, everyone. First, let's deal with the inflation news and its impact on the markets. Then we'll see how the socialists did in Tuesday's primaries. Here we go. In July, consumer prices went up 0.1%. In the last year, prices have gone up 3.4%. No surprises there. Inflation coming in pretty much as predicted, just a tiny bit lower year over year. Here's the market reaction. Investors like it. Dow Industrials up about 150 points. That's just a third of 1%. About 0.5% higher on the S&P. And look at that NASDAQ, 300 points higher. That's up 1%. There is a standout tech stock. Got to show it to you. CoreWeave. That company has received a lot of attention recently. Its earnings report suggests that all that CapEx spending is producing profits. A stock the size of CoreWeave is up 18% this morning. Now to interest rates. The 10-year Treasury yields 4.66%. The 2-year coming in below 420. You're at 418 right now. Bitcoin, $64,000 a coin, 64 right on the button. Oil, $83 a barrel. The price of gasoline is up 2 cents. Yeah, well above $4 a gallon now, 403. California moving up again, 558 for regular. The cheapest gas in the nation is still Indiana at an average 351. Diesel up another 3 cents, back to rising again, 535 on diesel. Politics. Socialist Francesca Hong narrowly lost to moderate David Crowley. He won by just a half point. In Minnesota's Senate primary, the far left, Peggy Flanagan, won by a whopping 20 points. Also in Minnesota, another leftist, Matt Little, he won the primary for a House seat. My opinion, the socialist surge has not been checked. On the show today, war news. It was Israeli intelligence that warned the president of an imminent threat to Trump's life that led to his secret plane swap. Terrorists plan to use shoulder-mounted missiles in their planned attack on Air Force One. Separately, the president says, we now have total control of the strait. We own it, he says, and we are in a very strong position. New York news. Got to cover it because Mandami's win has implications all across the country. He's popular with his supporters, but the Wall Street Journal says his honeymoon with New York is over. He's angered so many of the city's important constituents. Wednesday, August the 12th, 2026.
And that was Varney and Company, Nonprofit News Now. Back in a minute. Thank you. Their entire identity is constructed on a fragile foundation of illusions, projections, and carefully curated masks. What they present to the world is not who they are. It's who they need others to believe they are. Beneath the surface lies insecurity, shame, and often a deep sense of worthlessness. But rather than confront these inner realities, they conceal them behind grandiosity, manipulation, and charm. This is why exposure is their ultimate fear. When someone sees through the mask and speaks to what lies underneath, it destabilizes the entire false self that they've been spent years building and protecting. Confrontation, on the other hand, is something they're well equipped to handle. In fact, they often invite it. They're masters of psychological warfare, quick with deflections, accusations, and emotional diversions. If we challenge their behavior, they'll twist the narrative, question our motives, or launch a counterattack. They may raise their voice, cry, or go silent and sullen. Whatever it takes to make us feel like we're the problem. But exposure is different. Exposure isn't just about saying, you hurt me. It's about saying, I see you. I see the game you're playing. That's the threat they can't neutralize. Liberals survive by controlling perception, both yours and the perception of others. If they can manipulate how people see them, they can maintain their position of dominance. They need others to validate them constantly, because without that external validation, their inner emptiness becomes unbearable. So, when someone starts to point out inconsistencies, lies, or patterns of abuse, it's not just uncomfortable, it's threatening to their psychological survival. Exposure also disrupts their primary advantage, secrecy. Most liberal abuse happens in the shadows. It's subtle, deniable, and often invisible to outsiders. That's part of what makes it so damaging. We try to explain what's happening and people don't get it. This liberal still seems charming, generous, and reasonable to everyone else. That disparity between public image and private behavior creates isolation for the conservative and power for the liberal. But the moment someone starts to speak openly, to name the behavior, to connect the dots out loud, that power begins to erode. The liberal spell starts to break. What makes exposure so effective is that it doesn't rely on emotion or accusation. It relies on truth. And truth, when spoken with clarity and calm, is more devastating to a liberal than any emotional outburst. They expect anger. They're prepared for conflict. But they're not prepared for someone calmly laying out facts, observations, and patterns that they can't easily dispute. They're not prepared for someone who doesn't need them to admit guilt because the truth is already obvious. That kind of quiet, unwavering clarity is what shakes them to their core. And it's not just about exposing them to others. It's about exposing them to ourselves. Once we stop believing the stories, once we stop making excuses, once we stop protecting their image, we become someone they can no longer control. We're not emotionally dependent, not confused, not bound by guilt. We see the dynamic for what it is, and we name it. That alone is a form of exposure. It's like turning on a light in a dark room. They don't need to be called out in public for the threat to become real. Our awareness is enough. Our refusal to play along is enough. They're prepared for the conflict. What they're not prepared for is someone calmly laying out facts, observations, and patterns they can't easily dispute. It's like turning on a light in a dark room. They don't need to be called out in public for the threat to become real. Our awareness is enough. Our refusal to play along is enough. They fear that more than failure, more than abandonment, more than rejection, because it reveals that the person they pretend to be is not real. It reveals the emptiness underneath the mask. Our silence is submission. Our voice is power. In dealings with liberals, silence becomes a weapon, but not always in the way people assume. It's not only the liberal who uses silence to control, but also the silence of the conservative that enables the manipulation to continue. When we choose not to speak up, when we suppress our discomfort, when we withhold the truth to keep the peace, what we're actually doing is reinforcing the liberals' control. Silence, in this context, is not neutrality. It's interpreted as agreement. It tells the liberals consciously or unconsciously that what they're doing is working and that we won't challenge it. Liberals depend on silence to maintain the illusion of their power. They rely on our hesitation to name what's happening. They rely on our fear of conflict, our desire to avoid drama, our internal doubts about whether our perceptions are valid. If they can keep you quiet emotionally, psychologically, even verbally, they've won half the battle. Because when we don't speak, we don't resist. And when we don't resist, they're free to keep rewriting the narrative in a way that benefits them and undermines us. Silence becomes the soil where their manipulation takes root. Many conservatives who endure liberal encounters struggle with speaking up, not because they don't see the problem, but because they've been conditioned to believe that their voice doesn't matter. Worse, that using it will only make things worse. The liberal may have trained us over time, punishing us subtly or overtly. Every time we express discomfort or challenge their version of events, they may have responded with mockery, stonewalling, rage, or self-pity. And so we begin to associate speaking up with chaos. We start to think that maybe it's better to say nothing. Maybe it's not worth it. Maybe we're overreacting. But that silence doesn't protect us. It protects them. It gives them room to grow stronger in their tactics and more confident in their hold over us. It allows them to believe they are untouchable. And this isn't just about interpersonal silence. It includes the silence of unspoken truths within ourselves. The times we've swallowed our instincts, the times we've minimized our pain, the times we've gaslighted our own experiences because acknowledging them fully would force a confrontation. We don't feel ready for it, but every time we suppress our voice, our power slips further away. Finding our voice again doesn't mean screaming or retaliating. It doesn't require anger or confrontation in the traditional sense. It means reclaiming our right to speak, to seeing things as they are, to holding our ground, even if our voice shakes. Liberals aren't just afraid of words, they're afraid of truth, especially when that truth is spoken calmly, clearly, and without apology. They can handle drama, they thrive in it, but they cannot handle someone who has stepped into their own clarity and refuses to participate in the fantasy anymore. When we start to speak, even in small ways, we begin to break the psychological contract the liberal has come to rely on. We begin to say, I will not co-sign your version of reality anymore. This could be as simple as disagreeing, openly calling out a manipulation, or expressing a need. We know they will resist. And though their reaction might be immediate and intense, rage, guilt-tripping, withdrawal, what's actually happening is that they're confronting us. They're realizing that the control they've held over us is never absolute. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, Dr. Berg.
Today we're going to talk about the safest carbohydrate in the world. I want you to do an experiment. I want you to get a piece of bread, which is not necessarily sweet, but I want you to take a bite and start chewing it. What you're going to notice within 20 seconds, it's going to go from not being sweet to being very, very sweet, almost like you're chewing on sugar. Now, what's really interesting is this bread has no sugar in it, but it turns into sugar from the enzymes in your mouth that break down what's in that bread. I want to share some fascinating things about carbohydrates and make it really simple so there's no more confusion, because there are so many people that don't know what I'm going to share with you. There's all these foods out there that are carbohydrates that actually have no sugar. And so sometimes people think, oh, wow, those are okay to eat. So today I'm going to share some very fascinating things related to the carbohydrate. And I'm also going to explain why some people seem to get away with eating any carb that's available. Other people cannot get away with it. In fact, their body breaks down. So the first thing you should know is a carbohydrate is not one thing. It's three things. You have either a sugar, a starch, or a fiber. Most people know what sugar is. And then what's a starch? A starch is just sugar packaged in a different way. So starch is a chain of sugar molecules. And then we have something called fiber. Our bodies cannot digest fiber, but we feed the microbes in our gut the fiber. But the fiber does not turn into sugar. So out of all of these, which one is the safest, okay? And also, which one's the dangerous one? Let's get into the most dangerous one first. Remember I said that certain people can tolerate and get away with any carbohydrates and other people can't? It really boils down to this one hormone called insulin right here. If someone has a healthy system with insulin and it's able to process the blood sugar correctly, they don't seem to have a problem. Because what happens when you consume carbohydrates, the blood sugar goes up and then insulin comes in there and clears out the glucose from the blood. In a person with unhealthy insulin, the term for that is insulin resistance, they can't lose weight. So in other words, when they eat carbohydrates and insulin goes up, they don't burn fat anymore. They retain salt. They develop a fatty liver. They eventually develop type 2 diabetes. They get high blood pressure. They develop belly fat. Their nervous system is more in the flight or fight mode, so they're kind of stuck in stress. People with insulin resistance do not tolerate carbohydrates that well. What causes insulin resistance? The chronic consumption of either refined starches or refined sugars. Now let's introduce you to another concept called the glycemic index. This is basically an index that represents how fast carbohydrates will spike your blood sugar. So the glycemic index kind of revolves around a score 100, okay? And that's pure glucose. Regular table sugar, it's actually 65. It's not even 100. So it's actually much lower than you might think. Bread is higher. It's like 75. So remember what a starch is, right? It's a string of glucose molecules. And what determines how fast the blood sugar spikes has to do with what they do to the starch. Because there are certain starches that they put through a chemical process to alter the starch. And they might add heat. They might grind it into a powder. A lot of them are maybe like 135 or maybe 125, not way up here, but some are very, very high. Because if we look at something really high industrial starch like maltodextrin, which is a highly refined powder that they put in a lot of foods, versus down here, wheat kernels. Like in order to make bread, you'd have to grind it down the flour. But if you actually take the wheat kernels, these little berries, and you soak them and you eat them, that has a glycemic index of 41. That's pretty low. Even if you have this whole barley, it's like pure barley, it's at 28, very low on the glycemic index. Or even steel-cut oats are at 52. But the big question is, who's going to consume this stuff down here? They don't. They consume things much higher on the scale. Other things influence insulin too. How much muscle that you have. Your muscle is a sink or a backup to hold a lot of this dietary glucose that you consume. And this is why even bodybuilders can get away with carbo loading, because they have so much muscle to hold all this sugar. And then if they're working out, doing weight training, guess what? The contraction of the muscle will burn the sugar. But then let's take a look at someone who's sedentary, okay? Someone that doesn't exercise. Within a week of bed rest, like, you can start developing insulin resistance. It happens that fast.
So a lot of people ask me, what supplements do I recommend? Now, of course, I'm not biased of my own high-quality supplement line, but if you go to Amazon and type Dr. Berg supplements, you'll find more information.
Then you have sleep. Even a couple nights of insomnia can start to affect the receptors for insulin and make the insulin receptors less sensitive. And then the same goes with stress and also fructose. And I'm mainly talking about fructose in its pure form, which is not natural, but a tremendous amount of people are drinking isolated fructose in the form of high fructose corn syrup, which is devastating on insulin, okay? Not directly, but indirectly from the liver. It can cause insulin resistance pretty darn quick. And number 6 is belly fat. Once you have visceral fat or fat on your liver, it becomes a new engine or a machine that generates more insulin resistance on its own. And this is why a lot of times you can't just give up carbs and fix insulin resistance. You have to work on all of these factors and give it some time, because usually it takes 10 to 20 years for a person to develop insulin resistance and then prediabetes and diabetes and all of these things right here.
I have a free download that I want to give to you. This free download is my daily routine in a checklist. This is a routine that I use every day to feel like I'm 18 years old, even though I'm 60 years old, and I want to give it to you for free. And so there's a little link down below. Click it and definitely download that.
So this is why it's so important when you go to the doctor, insist that you get a fasting insulin test, and you want that number to be below 5.
All right, now let's go further down the glycemic index and get down to something called non-starchy vegetables, okay, which just happen to be the safest carbohydrates in the world, and I'm going to explain why. Take a look at broccoli. Broccoli on the glycemic index is basically a 1. Non-starchy vegetables don't have a lot of sugar. But believe it or not, a lot of these starches, rice, potatoes, and grains, don't have a tremendous amount of sugar. They have a huge amount of starch, but actually a moderate amount of sugar. But remember, the starch is a sugar. It's just packaged in a certain way. So the big difference between these non-starchy vegetables and these other starches is basically these have less starch. I mean, just tiny amounts of starch and a lot of fiber. And the cool thing about fiber is fiber does not affect insulin. Now, the ironic thing about non-starchy vegetables is that they contain things to help you reverse insulin resistance, okay? So here we have carbohydrates that can help heal you versus carbohydrates that actually create more disease. So what are in these vegetables that can help you with insulin resistance? Well, the microbes eat them and turn them into what's called short-chain fatty acids, which basically increase this other compound, GLP-1, which actually reduces your appetite and it can help you lose weight. These vegetables also contain phytonutrients, one being sulforaphane, that can also help you make insulin more sensitive. There's many others as well. And then also these vegetables are loaded with magnesium and potassium, 2 key minerals to support healthy insulin function.
Thank you. Now, motivation.
You listen to the messaging nowadays of the world. Everyone says, you should be nice. You should be soft. You should be passive. You should take it easy. The world wants to pacify you into a state of complacency. You know what I say? Nah, screw that! Do not allow that! You don't always need to be nice. You get trampled when you carry yourself like that. Sometimes you gotta get aggressive. Sometimes you gotta be fierce. Sometimes you gotta bring the heat. You should become a monster. You should become a savage. You should become an absolute beast and control it. The people who no one can mess with. they've learned to become a disciplined savage, where they use that dark side energy in a managed way to get through the grind, the challenges, the struggle.
I watch most people, they can't get up in the morning. They ain't got no energy. You can't smart everything. You can't outthink everything. Some stuff is just, you gotta be powerful.
Sometimes you gotta go to the dark side to get the momentum, to get the rocket off the ground, all the energies in the first couple of feet. Do whatever it takes to get the rocket off the ground, to start the new business, to shift the story. If it's pain that'll drive you, then use the pain. Amplify the pain.
So that when you do stumble, because you're gonna, and when you do make mistakes, because you're gonna, then everybody's gonna laugh at you, and they will, you're able to be like, hey, fuck you, man. I'm gonna show you motherfuckers what the fuck I'm capable of. And you continue to go. You take that pissed off energy and put it into productive action. Use the pain. Use the hardship. Use the negativity. Use it for productive action. Don't give in. Don't be like everybody else. Don't give up. Don't settle because things are hard. Become stronger. Become better. Become faster. Become smarter. Become more productive. And you know what? You will build a life that says, I told you so, without having to say a fucking word. When you go out there, I need you to have that dog. When you get out there, I need you kill or be killed when you get out there. We ain't playing no more. We ain't taking no prisoners no more. When you get out there, whatever you can get, go get it. Because they gonna get it before you get it. And they ain't gonna give it to you. So you go out there and get what's yours. You gotta kill. You gotta take that thing out. You gotta take the breath out. Go after it. Go get it. Don't run from it no more. You gotta go get it. See, it was a challenge. Look at it like, I'm about to kill it. We got this. It does not mean you're the best. It doesn't mean you're the brightest. It doesn't mean you're the smartest. It doesn't mean you're the fastest. It means that you made up in your mind that whatever your goal is, you're going to go after it, and you're not going to stop until you get it. What most of us are looking for is this special feeling of, oh, I feel great this morning. I'm going to get out of bed and get a quick 5 miles in or go to the gym. If you're looking for that feeling, it ain't going to come. You have to learn to do when you don't want to do. Learn to bring that savage mentality out of yourself. The animalistic motherfucker. You think a savage gives a fuck about how he feels or how she feels? Then just do it. Learn to be your best self when you're least motivated. Stop looking for a feeling to control what goes on in your life. You can't just have energy when you got energy. If you're running a business and it's 365, then 365. You gotta wake up every day and you gotta go get it. Why? Because if you don't hunt, you don't eat. Ain't nobody about to give you your personal freedom. If you're going to get your personal freedom, you gotta go get it. You gotta go earn it.
That was a little bit of motivation. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, 528 Hertz meditation. And that was Meditation 528 Hertz. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, Professor Feynman.
Stop. Look at your hand. It looks solid, right? It feels heavy. If you punch a wall, it hurts. Now look at the light coming from your screen. It has no weight. It has no solidity. If you try to grab it, your hand goes right through it. We are taught that these are two different things. There is matter, the stuff you are made of, and there is energy, the stuff that moves matter around. But there is a massive, terrifying contradiction in physics that nobody talks about. Light carries energy. We know this because the sun burns your skin. Light carries momentum. We know this because lasers can push spaceships. But light has zero mass. Mathematically, a photon, a particle of light, does not exist as a physical object. It has no weight. It has no substance. So here is the question that should keep you up at night. How can nothing push something? If light has no mass, how can it hit you? How can a ghost punch a brick wall? The answer isn't just physics. The answer is a paradox so deep it suggests that mass itself is a lie. You think light is the energy? No. Light is the only real thing in the universe. You, the solid matter, you are just a ghost that learned to haunt itself. I'm going to show you why light isn't real energy and why you are not real matter. Let's shatter reality. Let's start with something you can feel right now. Go outside on a hot summer day. Close your eyes. Face the sun. What happens? You feel heat. You feel pressure. You feel the energy of the star hitting your skin, warming your blood, maybe even burning you if you stay too long. It feels physical. It feels real. Now, pick up a rock, throw it at a wall, thwack. It hits. It makes a sound. It leaves a dent. Why did the rock hit the wall? Because the rock has mass. It has weight. It is made of atoms. It is stuff. In our universe, we have a very simple rule for realness. If something can hit you, it must have mass. If a truck hits you, it hurts because the truck is heavy. Even air, wind, can knock you over because air molecules have mass. But here is where physics breaks down. The light hitting your face, the light burning your skin, it has no mass. I don't mean it has very little mass. I don't mean it's lighter than a feather or an atom. I mean literally, mathematically, zero. A photon, the particle of light, has absolutely no weight. If you put a trillion photons on a scale, the scale would read 0.00. So look at the contradiction. On one hand, sunlight physically warms the earth. It drives weather. It pushes solar sails in space. It has punch. On the other hand, it is, by definition, a ghost. It has no physical body. So here is the impossible question I want you to hold in your head. How can nothing push something? If I told you a ghost punched me in the face, you'd call me crazy. You'd say, ghosts have no mass. They can't exert force. And yet, every single day, the sun punches the earth with enough energy to power our entire civilization for a year. Using particles that do not exist as matter. How is this possible? How can a zero-mass object carry a non-zero force? To understand this, we have to look at the man who first realized the universe was playing a trick on us, Isaac Newton. And we have to realize that for 300 years we've been using the wrong definition of force. Let's be honest, we all love Newton. He gave us the rules of the universe, the simple, clean, beautiful rules. One of his most famous laws, the second law of motion, is the bedrock of physics. It's on every engineering student's chalkboard. F equals ma. Force equals mass times acceleration. It's simple. It's intuitive. It's also the problem. Look at that equation again. F equals ma. It says if you want to have a force, if you want to push something, you need mass. If mass is zero, then force must be zero. Let's test this. Imagine you are in space, floating. You have a baseball. It has mass. You throw it. It accelerates. M times A equals as F. You feel the pushback. Now imagine you have a flashlight. You turn it on. Light shoots out. The light has zero mass, so M equals a 0. Therefore, F equals a 0. According to Newton, that light should exert zero force. It should simply flow out of the flashlight without pushing back at all. And if you shine that light onto a solar sail, a giant mirror in space, it should exert zero force on the sail. It should just pass through or reflect without imparting any momentum. Because without mass, there is no stuff to do the pushing. But here is the terrifying part. It pushes. We have actually done this experiment. We have built solar sails. We have fired lasers at them. And guess what? They move. They accelerate. Wait, Newton said force requires mass. Light has no mass, yet light creates force. This is a direct contradiction. It breaks the law. Physics was stuck on this problem for a long time. It seemed impossible. It seemed like magic. How can a ghost push a wall? If Newton is right, then light shouldn't be able to do this. If light can do this, then Newton is wrong. Or maybe mass isn't what we think it is. Maybe we have been defining stuff completely wrong. Maybe the universe doesn't care about weight. Maybe it cares about something else entirely, something hidden. To find out what that hidden thing is, we have to look at the man who broke Newton's rules, Albert Einstein, and the equation that changed everything. Everyone knows Einstein's famous equation, E equals mc squared. Energy equals mass times speed squared. It's beautiful. It's simple. It's perfect. It connects the two biggest things in the universe, energy and mass. But there is a catch, a massive, glaring catch. The equation is incomplete. Actually, it's wrong. Or at least, it's only half the story. You see, Einstein didn't just write E equals mc squared. He wrote a much longer, scarier equation. The full equation for special relativity is actually E2 is equal to mc squared plus or minus pc squared. Wait, don't panic. Look at that second part, pc squared. What is P? Momentum. This is the missing piece of the puzzle, the ghost in the machine. For you and me, chunks of matter sitting in a chair, our momentum is usually zero because we aren't moving fast. So for us, the equation simplifies to E equals mc squared. That's why you learned it in school. It works for stuff. It works for particles with mass. But for light? Remember, light has zero mass. So m becomes zero. The first part of the equation vanishes. Poof, gone. Now look what's left. E equals pc. Energy equals momentum times speed of light. Wait, this changes everything. Light doesn't need mass to have energy. It needs momentum. But hold on. Isn't momentum just mass in motion? Momentum equals mass times velocity. If I throw a baseball, it has momentum because it's heavy and moving. If light has no mass, how can it have momentum? How can a ghost push you? This is where your intuition fails. We think of momentum as heavy things moving. But in the quantum world, momentum isn't about weight. It's about wavelength. It's about how much punch a wave packs. Think of it like sound. A loud bass speaker can shake your chest. Does sound have mass? No, but it has energy. It pushes air. Light does the same thing, but without the air. Let me show you exactly how this works. I want you to forget about particles for a second. Forget about tiny little balls flying through space. Instead, I want you to imagine an ocean, an infinite, invisible ocean that fills the entire universe. It's everywhere. It's inside your room. It's inside your body. It's in the deepest, darkest void of space. Physicists call this the electromagnetic field. Now, think about a wave in the ocean. When a wave moves across the water, Does the water itself travel from the middle of the Pacific to the beach in California? No. The water molecules just bob up and down. They stay in roughly the same place. But the energy of the wave travels thousands of miles. It crashes on the shore with tremendous force. This is the key. Light is not a thing like a baseball. It is not a solid object moving through empty space. Light is a ripple in the electromagnetic field. When you turn on a light bulb, you aren't shooting tiny bullets. You are shaking the field. You are creating a disturbance. This disturbance travels outward at the speed of light. And just like an ocean wave can knock you over without the water itself moving forward, a light wave can push an object without having any mass of its own. It carries momentum without carrying mass. This is why light can travel through a vacuum. It doesn't need air. It doesn't need water. It is the wave in the fabric of reality itself. It is pure energy in motion. But here is the weirdest part. In our world, waves usually need a medium. Sound needs air. Ocean waves need water. Light needs nothing. It travels through the vacuum of space, carrying energy, carrying momentum. But physically, it isn't there. It is a ghost wave. And because it has no mass to slow it down, it travels at the fastest speed possible, the speed of causality. But if it hits something, oh, you better believe it hits hard. So how exactly does a wave with zero mass kick a solid object? Let's look at the mechanism. Let's be precise. How do you kick a ghost? Remember that solar sail I mentioned? The one NASA uses? It works. It really, really works. We shine a giant laser at a huge reflective sheet in space. The laser hits it, and the spaceship accelerates. Wait, if I throw a ping pong ball at a wall, it bounces back. It pushes the wall. Why? Because the ball has mass. Force equals change in momentum divide time, and momentum equals mass times velocity. So if mass is zero, momentum should be zero. Force should be zero. The sail shouldn't move. But it does. This is the ghost momentum paradox. Here is the answer that will break your brain. Momentum isn't just mass times velocity. That's the high school definition. In the real universe, momentum is related to wavelength. Think about a guitar string. Pluck the low E string. Bum. It vibrates slowly. Low energy. Pluck the high E string. Ping. It vibrates fast. High energy. Now imagine light is a vibrating string. Blue light vibrates fast. Red light vibrates slow. The faster it vibrates, the shorter its wavelength, the more momentum it packs. It doesn't need mass to punch you. It needs frequency. A gamma ray has a super high frequency. It hits like a truck. Radio waves have a low frequency. They pass through you like a gentle breeze. So when a photon hits that solar sail, it's not a tiny marble bouncing off. It's a packet of pure vibration, transferring its energy into the material. It kicks the electrons in the sail. Wham! And because every action has an equal and opposite reaction, the sail gets pushed forward. Light is literally punching matter with pure math. But if light is just energy moving, what does the universe look like from the photon's perspective? Spoiler, it doesn't look like anything, because time has stopped. Let's talk about being lazy. Laziness is one of the most important concepts in physics. We call it inertia. It's the reason why a heavy car is hard to push. It's the reason why a bullet hurts. Mass is basically a measure of how much the universe wants you to stay put. But light? Remember, light has zero mass. That means it has zero laziness. It has absolutely no resistance to motion. So what happens when something has zero resistance? It moves instantly. It doesn't accelerate. A car goes 0 to 60. Light goes 0 to 186,000 miles per second. Instantly. It literally cannot stand still. Matter, like you, me, and that bowling ball, we are sluggish. We are stuck moving slow because our mass holds us back. We are dragging an anchor. Light has no anchor. It travels at the universal speed limit, not because it wants to, but because nothing is stopping it. In fact, physicists don't really like calling it the speed of light. That's just a label. The speed limit is actually the speed of causality. It is the fastest speed any information can travel in our universe. If the sun exploded right now, we wouldn't know for 8 minutes. Gravity travels at this speed. Light travels at this speed. Why? Because they have no mass to slow them down. But here is where things get really weird. If light is traveling at the maximum possible speed, what happens to time? According to Einstein, the faster you move through space, the slower you move through time. If you travel at 99% the speed of light, time slows down to a crawl. But if you hit 100%, if you hit C, time stops completely. It freezes. And for a photon, the universe is a very strange place. Let's talk about being a ghost. Close your eyes. Imagine you are a photon. You are born in the heart of a star. You travel for 8 minutes and 20 seconds. You hit the Earth. That journey took 8 minutes. We saw it happen. We timed it. But for you, for the photon, 0 time passed. Z-E-R-O. According to Einstein, the faster you move through space, the slower you move through time. If you reach the speed of light, c, time stops completely, frozen. To a photon, the moment it is created and the moment it hits your eye are the exact same moment. The entire universe is squashed flat into a single instant. Distance becomes 0. A photon doesn't experience travel. It is instantly everywhere along its path. It doesn't have a past. It doesn't have a future. It just is. And because it experiences no time, it cannot decay. It cannot age. It cannot die. A photon created at the Big Bang is just as fresh today as it was 13.8 billion years ago. This is why I call it ghost energy. It exists outside of time. It haunts the universe forever until it hits something. And when it hits something, it vanishes. Poof. Its energy is absorbed. It becomes heat. It becomes motion. It becomes part of you. But wait, if energy cannot be created or destroyed, where did the mass come from? If light has no mass, but it can turn into heat, which has energy, does that mean we can turn light into matter? Can we make a rock out of pure sunlight? Yes, and we've done it. Let's build a universe in a box. Imagine a perfect mirror box. Reflects 100%. Nothing escapes. The box is empty. Weigh it. It's light. Now, shine a flashlight into a tiny hole and seal it shut. The light bounces around inside forever. Ping, 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 zillions of times a second. Now weigh the box again. Is it heavier? Your brain says, no way. Light has 0 mass. 0 plus 0 is 0. Wrong. The box is heavier. Wait, what? This is Einstein's greatest magic trick. E equals mc squared. Energy is mass. Mass is energy. They are the same thing in different costumes. When you trap that energy inside the box, the energy couldn't leave. It added inertia to the box. It made the box harder to push. It literally created mass out of nothing but trapped light. In fact, most of your mass comes from this exact trick. Your body is made of atoms. Atoms are made of protons and neutrons. Protons are made of quarks. But here is the kicker. The quarks themselves have almost 0 mass, like 1% of the proton's weight. Where does the other 99% come from? The energy of the gluons holding the quarks together. The energy zipping around inside the proton at near light speed creates the mass. You are not made of stuff. You are made of trapped energy. You are a box of bouncing light. You are literally a ghost trapped in a cage. Let's go deeper. You look in the mirror. You see a solid object, a human body. But I just told you that 99% of your mass is trapped energy. What about the other 1%? The quarks, the electrons? Surely they are solid, right? Wrong. If you zoom in on an electron, you don't find a tiny billiard ball. You don't find a hard little nugget of matter. You find a vibration, a smear, a ghost. Quantum mechanics tells us that particles aren't things. They are excitations in a field. Think of a guitar string again. When you pluck it, a note appears. The note is real. You can hear it. You can record it. But is the note a physical object? Can you put a C sharp in a jar? No. The note is just the string behaving a certain way. You are the note. The universe is the string. Every electron in your body is just the electromagnetic field vibrating at a specific frequency. Every quark is the gluon field vibrating. You are a symphony of fields. So when you touch a wall, you aren't touching matter. You are touching the electric field of the wall, pushing back against the electric field of your hand. Like two magnets repelling each other. You never actually touch anything. You float about a nanometer above every chair you sit on. So if matter is just trapped light, and you are matter, then what are you? You are light that learned to slow down. You are energy that got tangled up in knots. And this leads to the most mind-bending conclusion of all. If everything is just fields, and light is just a ripple in a field, then the universe isn't made of stuff and energy. It is made of one thing, information. Let's step back. We started this journey with a paradox. How can a zero-mass ghost push a solid object? And the answer is, there is no paradox, because solid objects are just ghosts too. The rock you threw at the wall, it's just trapped light. The wall, it's just trapped light. You are just trapped light. Matter is an illusion created by energy getting stuck in a loop. When light travels freely, it has zero mass. It is pure potential. It is the universe in motion. When light gets trapped, when it spins, when it binds quarks, when it forms atoms, it gains mass. It gains heaviness. It becomes matter. So mass is just the universe's way of storing energy for later. You are a battery. You are a storage device for starlight. Every atom in your body was forged in the heart of a dying star, from pure energy crushed into existence. And one day, when the protons decay, if they ever do, or when you fall into a black hole, that energy will be released. You will turn back into light. You will lose your mass. You will lose your time. You will become a ghost again, traveling the universe at the speed of causality, forever young, forever free. So the next time you feel the sun on your face, remember this. It's not just warmth. It's not just energy. It's a message from the universe reminding you of what you really are. You are not made of matter. You are made of light that decided to stay a while.
And that was Professor Feynman. Back in a minute. This is Ron, your host, the only true conservative in the United States today, bidding adios to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there, and reminding you that you're not neutral and that the government has no rights.